Peace, melanated family, all of our melanoids out there. Welcome to another broadcast of Melanated Solutions Media. I am Kashama Sankofa, of course. We have our beautiful co-host, Bliss. Hello. As well as, I believe, to my left or my right, we got the talented and brilliant brother Duke with us. How y'all doing this evening?
Hey, everyone. Hello.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I already see Deshaun joining in right on with us. Welcome in. Good to see you. And thank you for sharing. Wow, right on top of it. Reminder for anyone coming on through, feel free, please, to join us on Melanated Solutions Media on our YouTube page in order to help us build up our platform over there. But Kashama,
make sure you like, share, and subscribe.
Yes.
Sure you do all three of those. So, well, we got to get into family feedback, Duke, before we do anything else.
Well, sure thing. I already had some pulled up. So last time we came to you all, we were talking about what is the real Black history, and some of the comments on that particular live stream we had from Carl Tays, who mentioned that he's going to have to wind up starting his own church, standing for the Church of Black, in order to wake up his people. We also had a comment from Normadine saying hello from Philadelphia. Hello to you too, Normadine. Our reach is expanding. Maurice Franklin mentioned, again, I'm on YouTube. Are you on YouTube? So thank you for that. We also had Handsome Freddy just mentioned good stuff. And with that being said, that is our family feedback for this particular time. We're going to get right into our current events. All right.
Okay, so well, before we get into any of this stuff, I do want us to be mindful and send our thoughts and prayers, good energy, vibrations, and whatever you have to Tiger Woods. He actually was in a very bad car crash, and I believe he's still in recovery. Last I checked, he was like going through multiple surgeries and everything. Y'all heard about that?
I did. I am sympathetic, but I'm also Duke. I'm just wondering which ethnic box did they check on the hospital paperwork for this incident?
I thought I was.
And here we go.
It's that kind of night, obviously.
Wow. Yeah, I heard about it too. We just wish him the best in terms of getting well. I I don't know what else to say about that. I always, no matter what, we don't want anything.
I do want him to recover. Absolutely. I just think it's, relevant. I mean, when things like this pop up, and you claim your white heritage, I just wonder what you put on certain paperwork and documents.
To be fair, he never said he was white. He always said that he was Cablinasian. And I think to also be fair, he is Cablinasian. Whatever, and he's never tried to use black or tried to be the black spokesperson and try to use it to his advantage, like some people do, and use that card against us. He's always kept it real and been like, hey, I am not squarely centered in blackness. And that was the truth. And I think out of our own hunger and thirst for relevance at the time, we had we wanted to claim Tiger so bad. There was an offense. Some of us were insulted by that, but I didn't want to spend so much time unpacking that. But I'm glad you brought it up, Duke, because I mean, there has been a little rift between Tiger and the rest of the community.
Yeah,
just wondering.
So I mean,
obviously, I did hear that it was when I read about the incident, I heard that it was a severe injuries to his legs, and so we're hoping for recovery there. I'm hopeful that regardless of how this recovers, hopefully it's a full recovery, but hopefully however it recovers, it does not impede his ability to do his talent, his art, his life work. So that's where we are currently.
All right. Now, Herschel Walker. Y'all brother.
Now this one, I ain't pulling back no punches, and I don't care what y'all say. Electric chair.
I think we have to be. This is what I always have to remember when I think about Herschel Walker, because when I saw it, I dismissed it. One of the things that you have to remember about Herschel Walker is that Herschel Walker has a severe mental health crisis that he goes on. Herschel Walker is one of the first African American people that I've ever known of who has been diagnosed with multiple personalities.
Really?
So, yeah. So when I see Herschel Walker, I just, because I don't know what you're dealing with this situation. I don't know when Herschel Walker is speaking, and I'm so offended by the ridiculousness of it. I don't know about someone just posted brain damage. I don't know about that, but I do know he has been diagnosed with multiple personalities, which is very different from brain damage. So a lot of times I just go, I don't know.
I mean, in all reality, for me, now I'll probably be canceled on some other platform or whatever for saying it. But for me, if you have multiple personality disorders or some type of brain damage, then you need to get multiple personality disorders or some type of brain damage assistance and or help, not be put on television for your political views in work for things that impact my life.
Okay, so somebody said I didn't know about Herschel Walker. Let's put us up to speed, all right? There was another HR 40 hearing. HR 40 is the bill proposal to study reparations or to study, I don't know what they want to study about it, but that's what it's for. They had another hearing about it, and Herschel Walker was paraded before us to talk about his views on reparations, which included them being outside the teachings of Jesus Christ. Now, I think I'm glad for what Bliss brought to the table, because I had no idea. Yeah. I just got big, jolly, happy, super uber Christianized slave who's been hit across the head too many times. That's what I got. But to Duke's note, he's not up there from like his own initiation. Like he's definitely been pulled.
He's been used
and put up there. The person we really need to be mad at is Representative Sheila Jackson, Congresswoman, whatever she is, because she's supposed to be spearheading this thing, and it looks like to me she's engaging in self-sabotage. It's like she's a ringer for the other side. Hell, if she keep putting up people like that, and that other boy they had up last time who we seen footage of dancing in his drawers on the subway. I think I showed that on one of these broadcasts.
Right. How do you get an invitation to the hearing is what I'm wondering. Where does the invitation go? How do
they doing this on Twitter?
Right.
They doing this on
Right. Exactly.
So what I didn't know about Herschel, now I don't remember this boy's name, but Herschel's son is also someone who's went viral a few times. I didn't know that those two were related. I found this all together. So and the son is this more highly effeminate, most likely, I haven't looked into it, but most likely queer identified young person who is super anti-black.
And like,
I wanted to find the ways how they were articulated. They wouldn't call themselves anti-black. They would say they were anti-democratic, anti-black nationalism. They would definitely say that they were anti-black nationalism or something like that. But anyways, so apple doesn't fall far from the tree. A family that chucks together, drives together. But that's where we are. But no, thank you for enlightening us about that, because I did not know that about Herschel. I just assumed the mental disorder was whiteness. I looked into, people he's married and mated with, and I said, oh, there's the disease, there's the issue. But
it's way bigger, way deeper. Yeah.
Moving on.
But Kasham is right. It is about who gets invited to the table. It is about who's invited to these discussions. That's the problem, really and truly. So, I mean, Herschel's being used because he's whatever.
Soga Upendo said the Republicans invited Herschel as their witness, not Representative Sheila Jackson.
Okay.
I'm not understanding this whole commission period. Like, how is she choosing it, and why are like Republicans on that commission? Is there something that says this has to be a bipartisan commission?
Oh,
we need to do a reparations.
I'm sure it would have to be. Unfortunately.
Okay, because I'm not understanding why we have to entertain this kind of
and even with that,
like, why is it a debate?
Right, and even with that, where is the strong side for reparations? Even if the Republicans have who they call in, why
these idiots
weak? Where are these strong voices for reparations that can be called in?
Where are the Dr. Claude Andersons? Where are the Dr. Joy DeGrues?
Exactly. Huh? Exactly. That's the issue. Yeah.
Yeah, we get Twitter profiles as well. That's what we do. We get mostly Twitter profiles and, an author here or there, but not people who've extensively done research on not only how to dial out reparations, but the implications of doing so and why it should be done. What we get is, I'm Black, so I deserve it. As opposed to
Desmond Fletcher confirms that yes, any congressional committee has to be bipartisan. Soga Upendo says yes, each side get to select who they want to speak for and against. Well, the side that's supposed to be our side, damn sure don't look like it's our side. And I know that other side ain't, so.
Well, here we are debating about humanity and our rights again.
In other news, so there was some developments in the assassination of Malcolm X. Whereas the death of an retired, I don't know if he was retired, I shouldn't say that, but an ex-NYPD officer who was undercover at the time, he basically gave a deathbed confession implicating the NYPD and FBI's involvement, which we already knew, of course. Mm-hmm. But Duke, you confirmed for me before the broadcast, that the family of Malcolm X is pushing for the case to be reopened.
They've been pushing for it to be reopened. Which is always needed to have been done anyway. What's annoying about this revelation is it's not a revelation, because it's news that's been out there since that particular time period, like from the moment that Malcolm X was murdered. So for this to be an announcement now is really just bureaucracy, and it's annoying, honestly. But hopefully something fruitful will come of it at this point. As opposed to the annoying and ignoring situation that has occurred for decades now.
I'm wondering, we talked about offline the documentary that speaks to and names the actual trigger man, who was from Mosque Mariam, who was part of Nation of Islam, who was from Mosque Mariam in Newark, New Jersey. And everybody in Newark, New Jersey who went to that mosque was very clear and knew that and I'm sorry, I don't have his name in front of me, knew that this gentleman or this man was the trigger man who killed Malcolm X. So everybody knew it. I'm wondering what the correlation is between, I know there was some I know that the police were absent at the time. I've heard that stories that they were unavailable and they were supposed to be on post and were not. So I'm wondering how extensive the admission is from this former police officer. And I'm wondering what the family wants. I'm wondering, do they want a formal acknowledgement from the government the way Martin Luther King's family finally got? Is that what they're do we know what the family really is?
I could not say what exactly is the
I'd want that
push.
I'd want it. I'd want it. I want them to say it.
After they do that, they need to look into the suspicious death of Malcolm X's grandson.
I'm not familiar with this story.
Yeah. But we can't spend too much time on it. But that just look into that family. It was a very suspicious death, and they operate like that. We can't put nothing past them. Like they would definitely want to stamp out that brother's bloodline.
So here's while we're on this topic, is outside of it, but do you two know about any official I don't even want to say apology because that doesn't work, but acknowledgement about Fred Hampton and their involvement? Was there any kind of
There was a settlement.
A settlement occurred. Okay.
It took almost a decade for them to get. and it was cut down. It was originally like a $7 million lawsuit or something like that. Don't quote me, but they ended up settling for 1.5, I think.
Wow, that's all.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it was in like the late 70s when they got it.
Okay. I think. When they got is that part? And I don't want to go off, but is that in the film? In this new film?
I don't know.
Okay.
So I would know that I was getting my hair done at the time, and the last scene I saw, unfortunately, was that scene. So, and I needed to leave after that because it's well acted. I'll put it that way. It's well acted.
Well, here we are 30, 40 years later, and with the revisionist history being revised and us finally finding out the truth about what's happened to our leaders. Hopefully with Fred Hampton, the money you said, the 1.7 million, hopefully with Malcolm X's family, they'll get it. We finally are finding out what actually happened with Billie Holiday. So, at least.
Yeah, you actually just enlightened us about that, Bliss. If you want to quickly go over that.
I will just quickly say I was able to screen the film that came out today, United States versus Billie Holiday. Most of us have believed for a very long time that Billie Holiday died of an overdose. We did not know that the United States actually was involved in her actual murder on her deathbed. I don't want to tell the story. I've already done that on my podcast. Right. Everybody Elizabeth, shameless plug. I always do.
I was leading for you.
if you know that our new podcast talks extensively, do not listen to it. Do not watch it if you don't want spoilers. But overall, we are finally the truth of what has happened to our leaders and our artists. Our artists are dangerous. Black people, you're dangerous if you give the truth. It doesn't matter if it's in your art, if it's political, if you're socially active. And that's all I'm going to say about this. See these films, and I'm glad that Malcolm X's family is going after the United States government to do a formal admission. I pray that that's what they get. They deserve it.
All right. Thank you for that. So moving into our title discussion, some of you may have seen Jeannie Mai, whatever her name is, Jeezy's wife. Made some statement.
Fiance.
Oh, that's his fiance.
She's Whatever. Not a wife.
Whatever. Made some. No, I mean, yeah, thank you for that. But I mean, she's irrelevant as far as I'm concerned. But she's relevant to this broadcast because it leads us into the topic. She made some statements about how she's so afraid because she's Asian, and supposedly there's a spike in anti-Asian hate crimes, which is what the media is reporting. And we decided to explore this because we saw Black people's name look like it started popping up and things, are acting crazy. So we decided to explore the secret relationship between Black people and Asians. But first, let's get into this media frenzy about the spike in anti-Asian hate crimes. Have y'all been seeing that as well, or am I tripping?
You can't help but see it. I mean, one of Biden's first executive orders was an executive order to address the increasing xenophobia against Asian and Pacific Islanders. I questioned the executive order just in your first 100 days. It seemed like a strange urgency to have from my perspective, especially since it wasn't necessarily the Asian community that put Biden in office, but the Black community. And with the increases, I've been hearing the stories. I've not seen the stats that match the amount of media reporting I've seen. And I've done some research. And Lord, I'm hesitant about this whole thing just because, whenever we address something, we're always dismissed as xenophobic and I'm talking about African Americans when it comes to dealing with the issues with Asian Americans. But, we want truth, and the numbers that we're seeing, even in the stories that I've explored, and I know Kashama and probably you too, Duke, the numbers are just, there's no clear indication of what we're talking about here. An increase of 867% is what I've heard from one report. From what? Where's that coming from? So say you have 3, like 1 year, and you increase it by 867%, you're talking about 26. I'm not saying that that's not relevant because it is an increase, but if you compare it to overall crime that increased in 2020, are we talking about something that's fitting just in what happened overall? And when you looked at, I went to Trevor Noah's report, I looked at CNN, I've looked at, and there's no real significant information definitive on what this increase is. I know a couple of Asian elders have been pushed down. I don't support any kind of abuse against elders, but I'm still not clear if the executive orders and the urgency is matching what's really happening in these communities. And I'm not xenophobic. I'm just looking for the facts.
Curious. Yeah, you're just curious.
What they're basing this off of, from what I can see, and believe me, we've been looking, Liz. What they're basing this off of are two reports. One that came from the Asian American Bar Association in New York City.
Okay.
New York City's Asian American Bar Association. And that report was specifically about New York City, whereas it claims an increase or spike in hate crimes against Asian Americans, in which they are not really specific as far as the motivation behind these crimes. They're basically just documenting crimes against Asians. And they're also claiming that there was such a spike, but in New York City during the pandemic, 2020, there was an overall spike in murders, assaults, shootings, burglaries, what have you. Now, there's another report, which is very bogus, coming out of the Bay Area, which includes, I think that's the one, I think that's coming out of the Bay Area. Don't quote me on that one. But it includes shunning as an anti-Asian hate crime. Honestly, it includes shunning, when you shun someone, which is hard to even define, right? And they're claiming that there were 3,000 reports of these incidents that happened in the Bay Area. Mm-hmm. Now, I also found something that goes way back to 2010, where they've been framing this for a while. In an article in 2010 about the Bay Area, they were claiming that there were all of these black males who were targeting and preying upon Asians and so-called Asian businesses, when in reality, most of the businesses in our communities are Asians. So if you're gonna, I'm sorry, something's going on with my Bluetooth, but if you're gonna commit a crime, it's usually gonna be one of proximity and the businesses around you. But yeah, they've been framing this for a while, but the numbers just don't match up, just like you said.
Tamina in the comments said that they remember how the Asians treated the black people during the Rodney King riots in LA.
Y'all excuse me for a brief second. Let me get some technical stuff out the way, okay?
Okay. Well, I'll just talk about some of the things that are being included as attacks. I watched a clip from CNN, a 7-minute clip on CNN from reporter Amara Walker. I write 7 minutes of my life I cannot get back. Amara Walker is the newscaster from CNN that talked about how she was attacked at a New Orleans airport. I'm not discounting that what she said, but here's what she called attacks. The first thing that happened to her at the airport is a gentleman, she said, approached her and said, "Ni hao ching chong." Now, I get it. Ching chong is a slur. It is a racist slur against Asians. I get it. This gentleman supposedly said it to her and walked away. She later confronts him. She says in the store you buy trinkets, with the gift shop in the airport, and says to him, "What you said was completely racist to me." He supposedly walked away. That was the first thing she counted as an attack. The second attack, she said, was that she was sitting talking to her producer, who is a CNN producer, who, by the way, is not on the show with her to substantiate this report that she gave. And she never names the producer. I just thought that was odd. But anyway, so the second attack was that she said a gentleman came up to her and asked her if she spoke English. And she took that as being anti-Asian, racist, anti-American. And she was like, "Why would you ask me if I speak English? I'm just as American." Okay, that was her second attack. The third attack, she claims, was when they reported the gentleman asking her if she spoke English as harassment to the police and said it was racist. And the police officer was like, "Ma'am, that's not racism." That was what she counted as 3 attacks. CNN did a 7-minute clip. If you do not believe me, please go right to your Google or your YouTube, and you'll find this 7 minutes of her saying there was 3 attacks in one day and one location, and those are the 3 attacks.
Well, go ahead, dude. What you about to say?
I'm processing. So where I'm starting with is that I'm not necessarily angry that Asians are able to control the narrative in this way, right? Because I think any community that has some form of cultural cohesion, has been able to work through things, deserves the ability to craft and produce their own narratives about what's going on. What's annoying is the care that not only other people outside of this group is giving this particular narrative, but also us. Like there's so many of us in our community that are just ready to go gung-ho on this narrative that we got to protect Asian people because of blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, you do know what's happening to your brother and sister literally like right now, right? Like the numbers are just disproportionate in that light. I know of one
thing, though. My bad, dude. I thought you had stopped. I'm sorry. What you were saying?
I know of one incident where I'm sure you all heard of the team. This is the one that I know has been making the news a lot, but the team by the name of Antoine Watson.
I think you read my mind.
Yeah. So Antoine, so the story goes that an 84-year-old Asian man was killed by a Black teen by the name of Antoine Watson. Antoine had tackled him, and by the result of the tackle, he had suffered a head injury and then died I believe in the hospital. I don't know if it was on site or in the hospital.
He died in the hospital.
So this particular incident has been, published everywhere as an example of what needs to happen, as an example of this high arching system and systematic attacks on Asians. And the family is on record saying that they believe that this was a hate crime simply because he was Asian. And so I went to look into the story. I just wanted to know what could possess someone to tackle an old Asian person. Because I also know in my community that we do the same thing to our elders, unfortunately. Like there's so many teens who just do really ridiculous and hard to do acts.
The boy had mental illness problems.
Huh?
He had mental illness problems. Didn't he?
So allegedly during the story, I believe he was fixing on a car or something, and the victim wound up walking by, saw Antoine messing with the car, and apparently looked at him too long, or quote unquote a certain way, and it triggered Antoine for him to do a stupid, reckless act. And he's in jail now, facing 20 years to life for this act and killing this man in this particular incident. And so for me, it's like, I hate what happened. Hate it, detest it, can't stand it. And Antoine absolutely needs to be held accountable in some sense. Right. I'm not sure it's prison, because as far as in my personal life, I advocate against prisons. But in this incident, yes, take his ass to jail, right? And I'm like, he's going to be held accountable for this action. There's no question. There is no question that this young man is going to be held accountable for this. But to frame this as a systematic version of what's going on against Asians, I don't even think Antoine knew who or what this man was when he decided to tackle them.
I heard that story, and there's another clip that gets circulated a lot about the 91-year-old man who was knocked down. I think that was the San Francisco area that one happened. And we need to understand, because Kashama, you alluded to what's going on in San Francisco. Obviously, I think that there's a large population of Asians in San Francisco. So the crime in San Francisco has increased by 75% overall when we talk about burglaries.
Also, take into account this, Bliss. I want you to keep going, but also, San Francisco is in the process of being gentrified, and it's hot. Last time I was in San Francisco, it was expensive, and Black people are relegated. Go ahead, then.
COVID, people losing jobs, people without money, people trying to feed. You are going to see an increase in crime, point blank, period. If you are a store owner, and if the Asian population in just like you said, if they're in Black areas and they are store owners, you are going to see an increase as people get hungrier and more desperate and are a threat of losing their homes. You are going to see an increase in crime, point blank, period. And whoever owns the store is going to, I don't say it's right, but whoever owns the store is going to be the victim of those crimes, unfortunately. So if you had Black folks owning the stores in Black neighborhoods, like we really should have, then we'd be talking about Black on Black crime now. That would be the narrative. So, and again, we're not excusing any of the crimes. We're trying to make it make sense. So when you're talking about a place like San Francisco, where the cost of people can't afford to miss a paycheck. You talking about people that have missed 3 and 4, 5, 6 paychecks by now. Unemployment ain't doing anything. You're talking about a scramble to survive in places like San Francisco. And overall, San Francisco has seen an increase overall, 75% in burglaries, 14% in homicides. And according to the stats that I have in the report I'm looking at, in Chinatown specifically, the increase in burglaries is way lower than some areas. I'm seeing that it's increased by about 14, anywhere from 14 to 20%, where and that's central. I'm sorry. Yes, 17 to 20%. That's central. That's the central part of the Mission District. And in places like the Richmond area, which I don't know San Francisco that way, you've seen a 50% increase. So it's relative.
Well, the mayor even said, well, and see, this is the thing, because they're using this not only to put, they're using Black people or Black males as the poster child for this violence against Asians, but also the mayor blamed it on defunding of the police too. The mayor claimed that, all of this is happening now because, we defunded the cops or, and stopped patrols. So now, so to speak, they need more patrols in Chinatown. This stuff translates to criminalization of Black people, and it translates to money going into Asian communities. Get your bag, but why is it at our expense?
So I think this is a perfect, segue, because for me, I noticed that consistently in my community, we have treated the racism that is displayed towards Black Americans from Asian communities, specifically as a result of Asian communities investing into European-based racism and circulating with this particular social currency, right, of racist oppression. And while that's all in good, and while it is absolutely true, I believe it has done too much to take away the responsibility of Asian communities and how they have treated Black populations over the course. Because it's always like, well, we know you're doing this because, you invest into whiteness, as opposed to you're doing this because you're also a shitty human being, right? Because you have not dealt with the standards and protocols there. But we got so many narratives of what has occurred.
Before we get into that, though, because Bliss, you brought up the executive order, but there's also been a memorandum after that, specifically, saying some things. So if we can just go through that real quick, so we can make sure that we keep things in perspective as far as what the tangible results of this could be. But Adam, can you go ahead and share my screen?
Come on, Inception. Okay.
So y'all see that, right?
Can you zoom in?
Duke, you asking for a lot. Oh, there we go. Look at me discovering new things on the spot. So this right here, section C of whatever part of this White House memorandum, this is an important part over here. That's why I'm isolating it. The Attorney General shall explore opportunities to support, consistent with applicable law, the efforts of state and local agencies, as well as Asian American Pacific Island communities and community-based organizations to prevent discrimination, bullying, harassment, and hate crimes against AAPI individuals, and to expand collection of data and public reporting regarding hate incidents against such individuals. Now, this is interesting because some sisters attempted to do this up in Oregon. Let me go back to Inception. Adam, you can take it off now. Some sisters attempted to do this in Oregon with like a Karen law to, to start prosecuting these Karens that call the cops or harass Black people. But what I'm trying to figure out is this is nothing. This is, like you said, Bliss, this falls short of reparations, because these are funds and money and support going into their communities and community-based organizations off of a false narrative and faulty numbers.
Can I ask that? See, for me, what this shows is that there's a question about how we classify and define hate and hate crimes. To me, that 7 minutes that I spent with CNN, I want my time back, but I'll never get that back, because I would never have given airtime to that. I'm sorry. You had a bad day at the airport. She had a bad day at the airport. A couple of people said some things that they shouldn't. Here's what she doesn't do. She doesn't identify the men, what they look like. I'm guessing that if those incidents happened, those men did not look like you and I.
No.
So, and
we be on our best behavior at the airport, brothers.
Well, and plus we don't care. Black folks are generally set up to Asian folks. Do you speak English? We just, that's just not our way of getting down. We just don't do that. So that's really important to know. And also, is this off of, what about the hate crimes that you supposedly happened right after Trump called Corona the China virus? The Wuhan, I was going to say Wu-Tang, the Wuhan virus. I mean, so how much of that is an extension of that? And shunning, what does that mean? I don't want money spent from my tax dollars because your feelings got hurt. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Because we can't effectively prosecute for that. So what are we talking about? And
for me, it's just about equality.
It sounds like we're getting into the oppression Olympics. That's what we're starting to get into, with all of these groups kind of going, I'm oppressed. It's the oppression Olympics. Who's the most oppressed? How do we define what the hate crime is? It has to be across the board what a hate crime is, first and foremost. Shunning, I can't attack because you got asked if you speak English. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that we can't that can't
But you're not sorry, Bliss. You're not. You're annoyed.
I am annoyed. I'm annoyed because doing the due diligence, again, this is really about not wanting to be xenophobic, to be sympathetic and empathetic, and making sure I'm understanding from all points of view. I don't support violence against people, just random violence. And I think, like you were alluding to, Duke, that's more of an issue with those men being pushed, an issue of ageism. I'm more afraid for elders across the board than I am for specific elders of race. I'm afraid for elders. So what are we talking about here? There's got to be some parameters about what we're defining as hate, because if the CNN reporter can get 7 minutes because she felt offended for being asked if she's English, and somebody's mad because they're shunning, that's a lot of money wasted. I'm sorry.
Well, think about this though. George Zimmerman killed Trayvon Martin, and the word race his lawyers were not allowed to use the word race in their argument. They couldn't call him racist, because of all these so-called technicalities and whatever. And even on a grander scale, I didn't follow the whole what's that brother's name, the billionaire brother who sued the Department of whatever, Byron Allen. You're right. I didn't cover that case very closely, but to my understanding, he lost because it was all based off of what's going on in white people's heads when they do what they do. If they're thinking I'm doing this because he's black, then you know what I'm saying, it's racism or it's discrimination. That's the type of gaslighting that we deal with as a people. Every time one of us are killed, it's like, oh, it's not always about race. And I mean, but this right here, any little is said to be a hate crime. I mean, and I'm not calling that old man being pushed down, because my dad, y'all know my dad is close to 80. And I'll go in, somebody look like they want to do.
Right.
Yeah, he wouldn't even got that close to my daddy.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, when a mentally ill person lashes out randomly at an elder, we're calling that a hate crime, and he's black? No. We got to go back to Dr. Claude Anderson when we say we are a peculiar people. We have to make sure that we continue to push that narrative and let people know you're not going to paint a narrative of racism coming from us, because that's impossible.
Yeah. I mean, you all hit it really on the head with how, and I don't know if our viewers know, I'm sure they do, but how difficult it is to introduce the term of hate crime when it comes to specifically Black victims in any court case. Like, it is so difficult to even introduce the term as a real legal defense or incident of what occurred. And so with the current events of what's going on with the Asian communities, with the numbers being drastically, disproportionately lower than the incidents committed against Black people, and just already advocacy, money, resources, like being provided for this particular community, it's clear as day that there is a imbalance, and that is what where our analysis comes from. I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about when Peter Liang accidentally killed Akai Gurley, but Asian communities came accidentally is the thing. I mean, he was charged with negligent. At the end of the day, he was charged with negligent.
Well, we have a clip of that, Duke. So that it doesn't have to be. People don't have to guess about what happened. So, Adam, can you share the protest? Wait, I'm sorry. That's not the Yeah, that's the clip of the Asians protesting to support Peter Liang after he killed a 6-year-old baby, wasn't it?
He killed Akai Gurley in the chest. That was Peter Liang. I think.
Yeah, but she was a different story, wasn't she? She was 6 years old, wasn't she?
No. Akai Gurley is a grown man.
Okay, I don't.
We got different stories.
Okay, well, let's still roll the clip, Adam.
For all, that's the key message here today. I'm at Catman Plaza in Brooklyn, New York, where thousands of Chinese Americans around me are here to protest against the conviction of Peter Liang. They believe that Peter Liang was made a scapegoat and is being used as to set an example following public pressure to prosecute police officers. This comes after several incidents involving white police officers and the deaths of unarmed Black men that has...
I don't know that story. I can't speak to it.
This was in New York. Akai Gurley was in a stairway with his, believe his wife or girlfriend, holding his 2-year-old daughter. It was dark, and Peter Liang was there, I believe, for another call. And because he was startled or some incident is what is going on, and he shot in the darkness, and the bullet ricocheted and hit Akai Gurley in the chest, and he died on the scene. And what's also pointed and noted in this particular incident is that Peter Liang walked by Akai Gurley and did not offer any type of assistance. So this is that particular narrative and story. But I don't know if you have the clip for this one. I don't remember this man's name, but I do remember not too long ago of an Asian officer who went and was a predator for over 20 Black women prostitutes.
Holtzclaw, wasn't it?
Yeah, there we go. Incidents. And so it's just so many different narratives and pieces. We know about the nail shops. We know about, again, the constant positioning.
Let them know what happens in these nail salons. Black women get beat down like they stole something, literally like they stole something. They get accused of stealing, and they beat Black women down with broomsticks, pull their hair, body slam them, Asian men, everything. And this is not just the Brooklyn nail shop. It's you can find video after video of this stuff. Gas stations, you know what I'm saying? So I mean, somebody said, how many times has any VP come out against violence toward Black people as Obama has for Asians? That's Dr. Cleo Monago. Thank you for that.
Well, I mean, George Floyd, don't forget that was an Asian police officer that protected Chauvin while he was killing George Floyd.
That was right there.
And let's not forget that during COVID, let's not forget what was happening to Black folks in China. And there wasn't this outburst of support from the Asian community. And I've talked about that. There was radio silence from Asian celebrities and Asian political figures about what was happening to Black folks over in China around, while they were yelling xenophobic to President Trump, mentioning that it was a China virus. They were silent on the fact that the Chinese were taking out their revenge, so to speak, on Black folks when it was announced that Black folks were getting the virus more over here than even over there. They didn't have the numbers to support those stats there. They just heard about it from here.
Well, they were already mistreating those African immigrants in China anyway. They just ramped up and went in overtime on them because they run amok on the continent, and Asians are silent about that.
And we heard nothing from the Asian political and celebrity figures here. And we also heard nothing in reference to reprimanding the Asian officer who was involved in the George Floyd case. And we heard about them supporting, having prosecuting Chauvin, the white police officer, but nothing to go after the Asian officer. This is a real
it's a problem.
It's a problem because what I am seeing is that again, it is becoming the oppression Olympics, and I have seen the narratives as I've been researching where the Asian community wants to be included in their history, their narratives, more inclusion. So inclusion means control. That's popped up as these numbers against Asians, supposedly these homicides and violence against Asians. Now the Asian political community wants a bigger piece of the pie now, in terms of political clout and power. That's what the press is. That's what they're pushing.
I think the media is definitely seizing on this too to help control that narrative and to distract us from the tangibles that Black people are demanding too. Because we're looking at all this stuff happening, and we know we put Biden in. I didn't put him in because I didn't vote for him, but Black people put him in a lot of cases, but they won't even acknowledge that almost. And now we have this. So,
and everybody's fighting for the piece of the pie now that he's in. They didn't do the work like the African American woman really did for Biden, and it looks like he's going to be the
blame sisters for that.
Yeah.
So
let me stop.
I see it in the comments, and I think it's also fitting for us to just put into it because we were laughing about this before the meeting started. But we had Tamina Ross who said that they no longer eat at their restaurants and don't want to reward them without the work. I stopped eating at their restaurants as well. But before I mention why, Bliss, she said, how long ago was it that she stopped?
I haven't, and I do like, Asian food, but I have not ordered from an Asian restaurant in over a year.
Now, I'm not gonna, I still do.
That's my way of saying I do not appreciate what you do and do not do for our community. So I keep my dollars. And if I were a woman who, wore, and I'm not against weaves or stuff, I reconsidered,
Well, I stopped eating from them when I started getting real and accepting how they actually see us when they come into our communities and set up these little mom and pops, stuff. You go and look.
Let's be clear, they're not mom and pops. We gave them that designation.
Right. We call them mom and pop shops, right? But when you see how you get treated, when you see, when you go take a look back and see, y'all ain't really cleaning back there like that. The only time I eat from Asian restaurants is when white people eat there primarily, because I know that they won't do white people the way they do us. If it's nothing but Black people running in and about there, I stay away because they'll give y'all anything.
I still do.
Hey, it's that kind of night. We keeping it real.
Oh Lord! Oh, look at Dr. Monago. He hates weaves. I didn't say all that for you to say you hate weaves. I'm just saying I would consider buying the hair if I wore hair. And I'm not against women wearing hair. I told y'all might see me in some hair one day, but never mind.
Well, this ain't a hate on Asians.
This is not. I don't want it to be.
Whatever campaign, because we want to go through some history too, as far as, because we don't just go in like this for no reason. Black people, we have had everybody's back in this country. There isn't one single group that cannot say that Black people have not rolled for them at one point. Even brother Chairman Fred Hampton tried to start a rainbow coalition with all you other groups. And so, way back, even going back to when Japanese were being thrown in internment camps, or concentration camps is what I'll call them, by this government, it was Black people that were supporting them and speaking out against it. You had pastors like Hamilton Boswell out in California. You had journalists You had just regular black neighbors going to visit their Japanese neighbors and give them food and letters and stuff like that. Black people were vocal against the Vietnam War when this country was going on a violent campaign against Asians, bombing them and burning their jungles and raping and pillaging. We spoke out against that. Dr. King spoke out against that kind of stuff.
And don't forget Malcolm X's really good friend, Yuri, was it Kashiyama, the Asian woman who was part of Malcolm X's close circle.
What was her name again?
It's Yuri, oh Lord, Yuri Kajimata. I think she's actually still alive, who was a very close friend with Malcolm. So,
well, I mean, you got to realize a lot of the black revolutionary movements, you know, still read Mao Zedong. You know what I'm saying? They still take in that philosophy coming from there. The whole martial arts kung fu movie phenomenon that happened in our communities. You know what I'm saying? Me and my brother grew up idolizing Bruce Lee because of that. So all that accusing us of being like, you know, this hater group and going out attacking people and targeting, man, stop that. Y'all know that ain't us. Don't put that back on us.
So for people, just letting you know, the link has been dropped if you want to join and talk with us live. If you want to communicate with us, please know that we are, you know, on a time schedule. Please have either a question or comment. The best way to navigate this with us is to text our number of 410-826-6264. Join our community. You can let us know ahead of time if you have a question or comment, and we can get you into queues going forward in the future. But for right now, the link is live. If you got a question and comment, we would love to hear. Question or comment, sorry. We would love to hear from you. Tamina Rawls mentioned the art of war.
We got somebody backstage?
I don't think so. The link just dropped.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, I'm going to go back to it while we're waiting there because I think it's important. I think y'all were all being nice and kind. I stopped eating at the restaurants because I don't like Jerry and Ratatouille and and Mickey, okay? They are not friends of mine. They are not part of my dietary.
Oh my God.
But they'll only feed that to us, though. They wouldn't dare feed it to them white people.
See, listen, y'all think I'm being facetious, but listen.
I think that happens. I think that in terms of if the restaurant is questionable, it's questionable. I really believe that. I really believe
it won't be questionable if white people are going to it. Liz?
So one time, last time I did it, I had some pho with chicken,
which is Vietnamese. Pho is Vietnamese.
But this was from one of the, you know, because you know they all do the same. They do everybody's menu inside of the Asian shop, right? Like this is how they do it. They do everyone.
They even have black people food up in there. They be serving.
So they have fried, you know, they do the fried chicken. They do all that. They'll even say we got greens and mac and cheese some days. So
fried okra.
I ordered the pho.
I want to run from this guy.
I've been into it, y'all, and I just knew that Tom. I knew that Tom was looking for his friend.
Of all nights, not to have a glass of wine with y'all.
I've been into it, and I just saw Tom crying, looking for his friend, because the texture was all off, right? And see, this is the thing, like, because when it's dog, cat, pigeon, like we've been, you know, there's ways for us to want to believe that it's chicken with dog, cat, and pigeon, because the texture is similar enough. Right, it's similar enough, but rat was a new texture. It was a new texture for me, and I couldn't deal. I had to throw it away.
So,
how do we recover from this?
Toga Upendo reminds us that Muhammad Ali also refused to go to Vietnam because he realized, well, his oppressor was the white man in America. Hey.
Oh God. Okay.
But so I mean, if there are no if nobody else is coming on to you know, discuss this secret relationship, what was that?
Can we just say we're not in this show, we're not saying that people don't have the right to eat what they want to eat. I don't have a problem with people eating all kinds of things.
If you have Jerry and Mickey and Ratatouille on your menu, name it that. That's fine. Just name it that. But if I order chicken,
this the thing.
I want FDA approved chicken.
Right.
I grew up in the South where we eat raccoon for Christmas. You feel me? I ain't judging nobody.
What is it named? What is the name for raccoon?
Coon.
Exactly.
And peppers and sweet potatoes.
And I get coon. Right.
I'm not judging you for what you do. If you eat dogs in your country, and even if you snatch up Fido around here, you catch somebody slipping, and you get their poodle, and you do what you do in a humane way, I'm not judging you because I grew up loving raccoon meat. You feel me? But don't trick my people and be serving us some of anything, knowing that it's not clean, it's not safe, and you calling it chicken or beef teriyaki or whatever. That's all I'm saying. I ain't judging nobody's code. You can eat bush meat, wet market meat, whatever you want to do. Get it how you live.
That's what I was attempting. Never mind. You know what?
We called it coon.
I just think we gotta be real about it.
Okay. Okay. Well, yeah, I would, back to the story. I would really like for the numbers and these stories to be a little more cohesive as we tend to, as we continue to venture down, or the media continues to venture down this escalating idea that Asian Americans there's a heightened threat against Asian Americans. I just would love to see a more substantive story on that. And again, I went to the Trevor Noah story that he did, and basically he made a joke. Him and the Asian comedian Ronnie, someone really made a joke about what was going on. They mentioned the one gentleman being knocked down, and then everything was really convection, like making jokes about if you, I don't know. It was comical versus real information and definitive numbers. And I think this narrative is getting dangerous. As we had our funny time, it's getting dangerous because it's gone from the white Trump supporter who's xenophobic to now the black man is the threat. So it is serious. So,
and also remember now, Obama and Biden, they're giving these Asians all these tangibles, but Adam, can we remind the people what Obama said about black people when it came to doing anything? Well, I'm gonna wear this out. I'm gonna wear this out because y'all
reparations for black people.
Well, listen. Again, we had over 200 years of slavery. We had Jim Crow for almost a century. We had legalized discrimination and segregation, and now we have segregation and discrimination that is not legal but still exists and is a barrier to progress. We have disparities around housing. We have disparities around education. We have disparities around income. And we have to recognize that everybody did not start out on an equal footing in this country. And in particular, black people have not. And so we have got to recognize that and do something about that and give folks a lift up. That's why, for example, I'm proposing the LIFT Act. Give people who are making $100,000 or less as a family a tax credit, which will benefit and uplift 60% of black families who are in poverty.
So by default, it affects black families, but there's not a particular policy for African Americans that you would explore.
But no, if you look at the reality of who will benefit from certain policies, when you take into account that they're not starting at the same place and they're not starting on equal footing, it will directly benefit black children, black families, black homeowners, because the disparities are so significant. So if we focus on the specific issues that have resulted in the greatest disparities, and we understand that that's part of why we're doing it. Listen, the reality also is this: any policy that will benefit black people will benefit all of society. Let's be clear about that. Let's really be clear about that. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people. No, because whatever benefits that black family will benefit that community and society as a whole and the country. Right?
So I want to praise our family for our continued narratives and paying attention. Holmes mentioned saying, "Where that dude that said Kamala never said this? LOL. He always kills me." We did this for them.
Yeah, where
I
is
hope
he?
they come back and we
Not just
segmented
for
it out.
them.
Let them know.
Not just for him. We did it for the benefit of all of you who don't believe, who keep doubling down on this ridiculous narrative that they're gonna, come on. That they're gonna call a group of black
Cleo,
people.
her neck wants reparations for how it revolved at that moment.
She said what she said. She said what she said.
Like, you Negroes must be crazy. Like that's the neck. I'm glad Cleo brought up that neck, because that neck is key. She learned that from sisters at Howard.
I was gonna say that's the black. That was the black coming out.
Yeah, she was studying them sisters at Howard, them Akkas.
That
We
was
got it. We realized you always on, you performing. Bye. So yeah, if y'all weren't doubling down on this, we wouldn't have to keep being repetitive with this. I was just seeing a thread today where people keep saying, y'all be patient. And here these people that have came out with Asian tangibles, Pacific Islander tangibles, gay, lesbian tangibles.
Well,
who else
we getting ready to wrap up, but one tweet I saw online that was very pertinent. It said, "I wonder where all the people who said that voting for Joe Biden was a form of harm reduction, when now, in fact, we see that voting for Joe Biden, more people have been harmed." And that's just talking about the bombings in Syria at this moment. So we don't have time to get into that particular subject matter, but it's definitely an interesting perspective. But we are at the end of the hour, people. This has been another broadcast of Melanated Solutions Media. We thank you all for tuning in. If you want to navigate with us in the future, please text our community number 410-826-6264. You'll get updates of whenever we go live, as well as be able to offer us direct feedback, communicate with us. And it's really, really great to hear from you all. With that being said, my name is Duke, and that's the end of this broadcast.
Final thoughts, final words. Bliss.
All I ask is that if someone has tangible numbers, has serious numbers to support this narrative, I'd love to see them, because I can't find them.
All right.
I do have a final thought after Kashama.
Well, yeah, I just want to tell everybody, please make sure you check out Everybody Loves Bliss.
Oh, thank you.
Because
everyone you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. Thank you.
Yes. I just want to say I find it particularly difficult to fake shrimp and seafood, very seafood.
Oh, God.
So if you feel that you must eat there, the seafood, if you do eat seafood, I found safer.
My brother ain't lying. Stick with the shrimp. You can't fake shrimp.
The shrimp looks like shrimp. You can't really fake it normally. So yeah.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, so it's time to check out. Peace, Melanoids. I'm gone.